Hello, math students. Welcome back to our module called Integer Exponents and Scientific Notation. This is lesson 3, and it is called Negative Exponents. Our goal for today we will learn how to factor negative exponents into positive exponents. The question that I want you to be thinking about is, how do you simplify negative exponents? All right, so we're going to go back to our things to know category, and the first thing that I want you to look at is remembering the pattern that I showed you in the previous lesson about having a power, writing it out in expanded form, but we're going to add something to it that we didn't really talk about. Well, we talked about it, but you didn't see it. So for example, we have 2 raised to the 4th power, and 2 raised to the 4th power equals 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Then what I had you do after you wrote it out in expanded form is I actually had you divide it by the base, and the base is 2. So if we take 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 and we divide it by 2, you end up with 2 to the 3rd, because this 2 would simplify this 2 to 1, and then what you would have left are the 3 2's. And then we follow the pattern, and the same thing happens. 2 to the 3rd power is 2 times 2 times 2. Then if we divide this by 2, this 2 simplifies this 2 into 1, and you're left with 2 to the 2nd power. Then 2 to the 2nd power looks like this, 2 times 2. If you divide 2 times 2 by 2, this 2 simplifies this 2 into 1, and you're left with 2 to the 1st power. 2 to the 1st power means 2. If we divide by the base, 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then if we have 2 to the 0 power, which, I forgot, we're doing a pattern. This would be 2 to the 0th power, and 2 to the 0th power means 1, as we proved right up here. But if we take 1 and divide it by a half, you get 2 to the negative 1 power. And how did we do that? Every time you divide by the base, you're actually subtracting the value of the exponents. So 2 to the 4th divided by the base is 2 to the 3rd, so you subtracted 1 exponent. 2 to the 3rd divided by the base is 2 to the 2nd, which is subtracting 1 exponent. 2 to the 2nd divided by the base is 2 to the 1st power, which means you're taking 2 minus 1 and you get 1. And then 2 to the 1st is 2 divided by the base, means that you have 2 to the 0th power because 1 minus 1 is 0. So then, when you get down here, as you have 2 to the 0th power was 1, divide by the base, the exponent that you get is 2 to the negative 1, and so your answer is 1 divided by 2, because what is 1 divided by 2? It's the same thing as a half, okay? So 2 to the 4th power looks like this. 2 to the 3rd power looks like this. 2 to the 2nd power looks like this. 2 to the 1st power looks like this. 2 to the 0 is always 1. And then 2 to the negative 1 is actually 1/2, because you're taking that 1 from 2 to the 0th power and dividing it by the base, so you get 1/2. All right? So what happens when you divide by the base? When you divide by the base, you're actually subtracting the exponent by 1. Does dividing by 2 mean the same thing as multiplying by 1/2? And the answer to that question is yes. You already know that. We've talked about that several times. So these are the pattern relationships that I need you to start seeing and understanding. If you have a negative exponent, then your answer is going to be the base in fractional form, with the numerator always being 1, because remember, any number to the power of 0 is 1. And then you take the base, and that becomes your denominator. So right here we have, when simplifying negative exponents, this is a negative exponent, when simplifying negative exponents, remember that a negative exponent means that the power is less than 1, so it is a fraction with the numerator of 1 always, and the denominator has to be the base. Okay? And so that's kind of handy to help us understand what it means when you have a negative exponent. Okay, so this one right here says 4 raised to the negative 2. So again, remember, you have, when you have a negative numerator, it means that you have the base. The base in this case is 4, right? So we know we have a base of 4. The exponent tells you how many times you have it, so I need to have 2 4s as denominators, and remember the numerator is always 1. So this would be 4 to the negative 2. So the way we write it is we say 1/4 raised to the power of 2. And 1/4 raised to the power of 2 means 1/4 times 1/4, which all means the same thing as 4 raised to the negative 2 power. That means I have 4 multiplied by itself twice, but this negative is telling me that it's 1/4. Okay, so now if we look at that when we apply it to the same thing, this one right here says that we have 3/6 raised to the power of 4, but it's a negative. Okay, so now what we have to think about is you need to remember that this right here is the base. Well, when you're trying to identify the base of a negative, you're taking the reciprocal. So this is the reciprocal. So we would have to do the reciprocal of this 4 times. So it would look like 6/3 times 6/3 times 6/3 times 6/3, because that's 4 times, right? And then we had to do the reciprocal because this is a negative right here. So our answer on this one would be 6/3 to the 4th power. Okay, so now let's look at the next one. The base is 10. The reciprocal of 10 is 1/10. So we have 10 here, and then we have 10 here, and then we have 10 here, and then we have 10 here, then we have 10 here, then we have 10 here, we have 10 here, we have 10 here, and we have one more 10. And in this case, the reciprocal of 10 is 1/10, so these numerators are all going to be 1s, right? And so then 10 to the negative 9th power would equal 1/10 raised to the 9th power. That's what that means, okay? So again, the last one, this time the base is negative, okay? So don't let that confuse you. The base is negative. Remember, it's a negative 8. So if you have to take the reciprocal of that, you are going to have negative 1/8. So it would be negative 1/8 7 times. Negative 1/8. Oops, let's multiply. This is a negative. Sorry, there's a lot going on there. Negative 8, that's a 1. Negative 8, and that's a 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and so our answer for this one would be 1/8 negative 7 times. Okay, because again, you take the reciprocal of the base and then you multiply it by itself the number of times of the exponent, as long as your exponent is negative. So this exponent was negative, so we had to take the reciprocal. This exponent was negative, so we had to take the reciprocal. This exponent is negative, so we had to take the reciprocal. This exponent was negative, so we had to take the reciprocal. Okay? So that's kind of a fun thing to learn about negative exponents. And one thing that you need to know, kiddos, is that you're going to have to, for any answer that you give me, your answer is going to have to be a positive exponent. So if you get down to combining things and you end up with a negative exponent, the last step is that you have to turn it into a positive, which would be doing this. If you know the answer is 4 to the negative 2nd power, you cannot leave this as your final answer. You would have to simplify it to 1/4 to the 2nd power. Okay, that's what I mean about all answers have to be written in positive exponent form. All right, so let's look at this one. Same thing. We have a base of 3 2/10. So if we take the reciprocal of that, we have, this is actually as a fraction, it really looks like this, 3 2/10, right? So if we turn this into an improper fraction, then it would be 32/10. And it's saying we're supposed to take 32/10 and take it to the negative 3rd power. So what's the rule? Reciprocal. So I have 10 32nds times 10 32nds times 10 32nds. Right there, yeah. And then the final answer would be 10 32nds to to the third power because you have to multiply it by the reciprocal. Again, this one, the base is 5, the exponent is negative, the reciprocal of 5 is 1/5, so you would go 1/5 times 1/5 times 1/5 times 1/5 times 1/5, and so simplified out it would be 1/5 raised to the 5th power, like that. Okay? So that is how you simplify negative exponents into positive exponents. All right? So in the help me section, I would like you to help me with this one. Okay? And it says, how do we do this one? Again, I want you to remember what we were doing. If your base was 5, you have to change it to its reciprocal and then multiply the reciprocal by itself the number of times of the exponent. So this is 4/5, so the reciprocal of 4/5 is 5/4 times 5/4 times 5/4 times 5/4, and it's 4 times, so my simplified answer would be 5/4 raised to the 4th power. Okay? So not too bad, right? Last one, show me the process of going from 2/3 to the 3rd power down to 2/3 to the 0th power. So we did this one in our last lesson where you had to take 10 to the 6th power down to 10 to the 0th power. This time I want to see if you can do it when your base is a fraction. So just remember the pattern, setting up your pattern like this, and go from the 3rd power down to the 0th power and see what you come up with. Okay, so I'll be looking for that when we do TLC check. All right, so let's go back to our goal for today. Today we will learn how to factor negative exponents into positive exponents, which is what we just did. The question that I asked you to think about is, how do you simplify negative exponents? Well, you simplify them by making the base its reciprocal and then multiplying itself, that reciprocal itself, by itself the number of times of the exponent. Okay? All right, kiddos, that's all I have for you in this lesson. Talk to you soon. Bye.